Welcome back everybody to my spring forward into horror series. This one it's a little bit different, and the film that I'm going to be reviewing is called A Field in England. In case you don't know about this film, it takes place amid the Civil War in 17th century England. A group of deserters flee from battle through an overgrown field. Captured by an alchemist, the men are forced to help him search to find a hidden treasure that he believes is buried in the field. There's a bunch of great things about this. The black and white aesthetic adds an interesting tone to the film and gives it a classic horror vibe, and the editing complements that as well. Everything just complements each other in such a way that you don't really see it that often. The cinematography is great. The score is perfectly creepy in a way. It has a classic horror feel, like I mentioned, with the black and white aesthetic. There's slow motion in it. The framing of this film is interesting. It's not the typical framing that you'd expect from a properly framed film, but that being said, the framing works very well with this story and helps tell it in a way that it couldn't be the standard way, that if there was enough headroom, much like you can see here, there's a little bit of space above my head. It was just interestingly framed and stuff like that. It was very well written. The slow motion is interestingly incorporated within the edit. The directing by Ben Wheatley is very good. Now, I've only seen one other film by him a couple years ago called High Rise. I have this tripod visual. I'm kind of confused with my notes here. I guess it's stationary camera. Maybe that's what I was trying to say. I'm not 100% sure. I guess you gotta watch the movie to find out what I mean by tripod visuals. I'll probably have to watch it again to figure out what I mean by tripod visuals. So the audio mix is unique and interesting. So at some parts it actually cuts out and it almost seems like there's an issue with the audio. It works to tell what's happening in the scene. That's not something that you normally find. Effects are well executed. I did find it a little bit boring in some parts, like it was a slow film, a slower pace, but overall I think that was the point, because they were going with a classic horror feel to it. So a very cool thing, the film has a weird time displacement. As to what started the time displacement in the film, it's not exactly explained. It's actually well executed. It helps tell the story in a way that it kind of adds rewatchability so that you can pick up on more things, I guess. As to why they decided to go with that, I don't know. Maybe it's the mushrooms that they, like the mushroom patch that they come across. I'm sure I'll figure it out upon multiple viewings, but like overall it was a very good film. Highly recommend it. It's on Shudder. If you don't mind the slower paced horror films, a classic horror feel to it where it's more terror than it is shock value, kind of like how the original Dracula, like that kind of style, like Nosferatu, The Mummy, that kind of horror, where it was more of like the terror element. This film perfectly achieves that. I do wish they had have expanded upon the time displacement a little bit, because I really like when movies do that. It creates a self-contained nature within the film that allows you to separate it from what's going on outside the film, but within the film, adds a little bit of rewatchability, because there's really no beginning, no end. It's just a constant loop. That's really cool. If I had to give this film a rating, I would give it a 9.7. Yes, not perfect, but maybe if they expanded upon the time displacement would have been a little bit higher rating, because I think that was a small missed opportunity. If they were hinting at throughout that it was time displacement, that would have been what I would have needed for it to be a higher rating. You can watch this film on Shudder or the Shudder channel on Amazon Prime, depending on your region. Stay tuned for the films coming up, and I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.